Hi everyone, welcome to IGCSE Study Buddy, where you can revise physics topics from the Cambridge IGCSE syllabus. If you're enjoying our videos so far, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. In this video, you're going to learn part 1 of Topic 1, Motion, Forces, and Energy. In physics, we measure many different physical quantities such as length, volume, and time. Each of these requires a suitable measuring instrument to obtain accurate results. Measuring length. To measure the length of objects, we may use a ruler. A ruler is used to measure lengths in centimeters or millimeters. To measure the length of an object, place the object so one end is at the 0 mark. The length is read where the other end meets the scale. Keep the ruler flat and read at eye level for an accurate result. Measuring volume. To measure the volume of liquids or irregular solids, we use a measuring cylinder. Volume is measured in milliliters or cubic centimeters. 1 milliliters equals 1 cubic centimeters. For liquids, pour the liquid into the cylinder and allow it to settle. Read the volume at the bottom of the meniscus, the curved surface, at eye level to avoid errors caused by viewing from an angle. For irregular solids that sink, use the displacement method. Place the object in water and observe how much the water level rises. So how do we do that? Measure the initial volume of water. Place the object into the water. Measure the new volume. Volume of object equals final volume minus initial volume. So the rise in water level equals the volume of the object. Measuring time. Time is measured in seconds. To measure time intervals, we may use clocks or stopwatches, or digital timers. To measure time in experiments, choose a timer suitable for the task. A clock or stopwatch is used for long time intervals, like timing how long it takes for a beaker of water to boil, while a digital timer is needed for very short time intervals, such as measuring the time for a ball to fall from a measured height. For very short times, human reaction time matters. For very short time intervals, human reaction time can cause large errors. We try to reduce this error by measuring multiple times and averaging. To reduce error, measure the time for several repeated events. Find the average time. Example: measure the time for a ball to fall through a short distance 10 times. Average time equals total time divided by 10. Period of oscillation of a pendulum. A pendulum is an object that hangs and swings back and forth because of gravity. A pendulum moves back and forth repeatedly. One complete movement is called one oscillation. That is, the pendulum swings from one side, through the middle point, to the other side, back through the middle point, and returns to the starting side. That is one oscillation. The period is the time taken for one oscillation. To find the period, measure the time for many oscillations, for example, 20. Divide the total time by the number of oscillations. This improves accuracy. Scalars and vectors. In physics, we describe quantities in two main ways. Some only tell us how much, while others tell us how much and in which direction. These are called scalar and vector quantities. A scalar quantity has only size or magnitude. It tells you how much but not which direction. Examples of scalar quantities include Distance, how far something travels. Speed, how fast it moves. Time, how long something takes. Mass, how much matter something has. Energy, how much work can be done. Temperature, how hot or cold something is. A vector quantity has both size and direction. It tells you how much and which way. Examples include force, push or pull in a certain direction. Weight, force of gravity acting downward. Velocity, speed in a particular direction. Acceleration, change in velocity in a direction. Momentum, mass times velocity with direction. Electric field strength, direction of the electric force on a charge. Gravitational field strength, direction and strength of the gravitational force on a mass. Tip to remember: scalars equals size only. Vectors equals size plus direction. Resultant of two perpendicular vectors. When two vectors are at right angles, like one pointing north and one pointing east, we can combine them into one single vector, called the resultant. So the resultant is the single vector that does the same job as both combined. For this topic, we will only do this with forces or velocities. We can find the resultant in two ways: by calculation, that is, by using math, or graphically, that is, by drawing. Let's get into more detail. How to find it by calculation. When you are given two vectors at right angles, you use Pythagoras' theorem to find the resultant. If the two arrows meet at a right angle, we can use Pythagoras' theorem. Pythagoras is just a math tool that tells us how to find the longest side, called the hypotenuse, of a right-angled triangle if we know the other two sides. The formula is c squared equals a squared plus b squared. This gives us c squared, but we want c, not c squared. So to find c, we take the square root of both sides. Taking the square root removes the square. So we find the hypotenuse with the formula c equals the square root of a squared plus b squared. So a and b are the two perpendicular vectors, and c is the resultant, the diagonal. Therefore, the resultant equals the square root of the first vector, squared, plus the second vector, squared. Let's look at an example to find the resultant force using the calculation method. Two forces act at right angles on an object. Force A equals 6 newtons, acting east, that is horizontal. Force B equals 8 newtons, acting north, that is vertical. Step 1. Use Pythagoras' theorem. Since the two forces act at right angles, Pythagoras' theorem can be used to find the resultant force. The resultant force equals the square root of the first vector squared plus the second vector squared. So the resultant equals the square root of 8 squared plus 6 squared. 8 squared is 64 and 6 squared is 36. 64 plus 36 gives us 100. The square root of 100 is 10. Therefore, the resultant force is 10 newtons. If the question also asks for the direction of the resultant, we find the angle using trigonometry. The vertical component is the opposite side, and the horizontal component is the adjacent side. So we use tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So if we are to find the direction of the resultant force from our previous example, the vertical force is 8 newtons and the horizontal force is 6 newtons. So tan theta equals opposite divided by adjacent equals 8 divided by 6. 8 divided by 6 gives us 1.33. So tan theta equals 1.33. Now we need to find theta, which represents the angle or direction of the resultant force. To do this, we find the tan inverse of 1.33. On a scientific calculator, press Shift. then tan, then type 1.33 and press equals. This gives us approximately 53 degrees. So the resultant force of 10 newtons acts at 53 degrees above the horizontal. Let's do a past paper question for more clarity. So as you can see, two forces are acting on the balloon. The first force is 0.40 newtons acting horizontally to the right. The second force is 0.74 newtons acting vertically downward. Also notice the little square in the corner. This tells us the two forces are at 90 degrees to each other, meaning they are perpendicular. Therefore, we can find the resultant force using Pythagoras' theorem. So, the question asks us to calculate the magnitude and direction of the resultant force on the balloon. Let's first calculate the magnitude of the resultant force. Now we know that to apply Pythagoras' theorem, we need to form a right-angled triangle. We already have 0.40 newtons to the right and 0.74 newtons downward. To see the triangle clearly, let's draw a dotted line downward from the tip of the 0.40 newton arrow, making it the same length as the 0.74 newton force. We can do this because a force can be moved parallel to itself without changing its magnitude or direction, so it still represents 0.74 newtons. Now we have a right-angled triangle with sides 0.40 newtons and 0.74 newtons, and the diagonal represents the resultant force. So we can use Pythagoras' theorem to find the resultant. The formula is resultant force equals the square root of the first vector squared plus the second vector squared. So we substitute the values. That gives us the square root of 0.40 squared plus 0.74 squared. First, calculate the squares. 0.40 squared equals 0.16. 0.74 squared equals 0.5476. Now add them. Now take the square root. Resultant force equals the square root of 0.7076. Resultant force is approximately 0.84 newtons. So the magnitude of the resultant force is about 0.84 newtons. Now let's find the direction. To find the direction, we use tan theta. Tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. The opposite side is the downward force, 0.74 newtons. The adjacent side is the horizontal force, 0.40 newtons. So, tan theta equals 0.74 divided by 0.40, which gives us 1.85. Now we find tan inverse of 1.85 using the calculator. Press Shift, then tan, then 1.85, then equals. Theta is approximately 62 degrees. So our final answer is resultant force equals 0.84 newtons, acting at 62 degrees below the horizontal. The resultant force may also be found graphically. To do this, we use vector diagrams. A vector diagram is a scale drawing that uses arrows to represent vectors such as forces or velocities, showing both their size and direction. Arrow length shows the size or magnitude. Arrow direction shows the direction. You must choose a scale so that the lengths are easy to draw and measure. For example, 1 centimeter equals 1 newton or 1 centimeter equals 2 newtons. So let's go through the steps to find the resultant force graphically using an example. Two forces act on a body at right angles. Force A equals 12 newtons east. Force B equals 16 newtons north. Step 1. Choose a suitable scale. Use 1 centimeter equals 2 newtons, so the diagram is not too small. Step 2. Draw force A. 12 newtons divided by 2 equals 6 centimeters. Draw a 6 centimeter arrow to the east from a point representing the object. Step 3. Draw force B. 16 newtons divided by 2 equals 8 centimeters. From the same starting point, Draw an 8 cm arrow to the north at right angles to force A. Step 4. Complete the rectangle. Draw dotted lines parallel to each force so that the two forces form a rectangle. Step 5. Draw the resultant. Draw a diagonal line from the starting point to the opposite corner of the rectangle. This diagonal represents the resultant force. Step 6. Measure the resultant. Place the 0 of the ruler at the starting point and measure the length of the diagonal. The diagonal measures 10 centimeters. Step 7. Convert using the scale. 10 centimeters times 2 newtons equals 20 newtons. So the resultant force is 20 newtons. Step 8. Find the direction. Measure the angle between the resultant and the east direction using a protractor. Place the center of the protractor at the starting point. Align the baseline of the protractor with the horizontal, that is, the east direction. Measure the angle between the horizontal line and the resultant diagonal. The measured angle of 53 degrees is the direction of the resultant force, so the resultant force is 53 degrees above the horizontal. That concludes Part 1 of Topic 1 Motion, Forces and Energy. Are you enjoying our videos? Are they helping you? Here is a way you can show your appreciation and support our continued efforts. You may use YouTube Super Thanks to send us thanks. Hope this video helped you. Please share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to IGCSE Study Buddy for more revision videos.